What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. Today, we're going to be talking about Boogie Cousins being released from the Houston Rockets. We're going to talk about some of the top destinations we believe should sign him and bring him onto their playoff-ready rosters. All that and much more coming your way right now! Nick, news broke earlier in the week that Boogie Cousins was going to be released from the Houston Rockets. He just wasn't fitting their system. They weren't, they're not competing. He wants to compete, and they just simply bought him out of his contract. They came up with a solution, a number that worked for both sides. And, now Boogie's looking for a new team. And I think we got a few teams up on the docket that should be interested in signing him.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation where he's still a solid player and he's still coming back from injury, only playing 25 games so far this season, being out all of last season. He's still working his way back, and if you look at the last few games, he's playing extremely well. He's almost back to full form, and I think if he's in the right system, which he wasn't with Houston, if he's with the right system, he's going to perform at his best, and he's going to be back shooting 20 points a game, putting up 10 boards, averaging a double-double, which is what we've known from him over his career. And so as we go through some of these teams, I think that we're going to find some good fits, but also some bad fits for him as well.
Very true. And just to note that he chose to sign with the Rockets because he believed he'd be playing under the Mike D'Antoni system. And then when Mike D'Antoni was fired, things kind of went a little haywire, and this is where they ended up trading James Harden, buying out Boogie Cousins, and now they're moving on with a roster of a bunch of people that now have to prove why they belong on the team, and John Wall. So we're going to take a look at some of the teams that we believe should, sign Boogie Cousins, and let's start off with the first and foremost, the Boston Celtics. I believe the Boston Celtics are the prime position to sign Boogie Cousins. They have some decent pieces currently on this roster, and they are primed to make another deep playoff run. But their biggest issue is the center position. If you've seen any Celtics games in the last few weeks, you notice that there is no big presence on the court for them. When you're looking at it, you're watching Daniel Tice or Robert Williams or Tristan Thompson. While Tristan Thompson has been a bright spot for this team, Daniel Tice and Robert Williams have kind of struggled a bit on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively speaking, Robert Williams has done really well, but Daniel Tice, who starts for the team, can't do anything well. So there is a lot here that the Celtics need. Boogie Cousins will be able to space the floor. He'll be able to work in Brad Stevens' system. We noticed, every year that Brad has a new center, all those centers try to do is take threes and space the floor. Boogie Cousins is known for doing that throughout his career. As he progresses back from his injury from last year, I believe he's going to be able to rehab well with the Celtics and help them make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I think the Boston Celtics would be a great spot for Boogie Cousins. As you said, Daniel Tice is not working out, and there needs to be a change here. It doesn't look like Trader Danny is going to make a move for any of the big centers who are on the trade block. So Boogie Cousins would be the best option out there for them. All they'd have to do is sign him. They wouldn't have to give up any of their pieces that they're not willing to move, and they could try to make it work. Brad Stevens is in the hot seat right now. If they somehow miss the playoffs, he's out. He's out. He's had too many chances to get to the finals. He can't get there. He can't get this team to where it needs to be. And Boogie Cousins would be the ultimate test for Brad Stevens to see if he's worth keeping or if it's time to look for a new head coach. So I think Boogie.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I think Boogie Cousins would be a great asset to the Celtics. And as we've seen with sometimes Robert Williams is in the game where his big size comes into play, they're able to play more pick and rolls. Daniel Tice works well in that too, but he's just not as athletic as some other guys. And DeMarcus Cousins would add a lot more athleticism to the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I think that this would be a great move.
Yeah, for sure. And just to expound on that just a little bit more, we take a look at the Boston Celtics, and you take a look at this roster. Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. That starting three can go up against any other starting three in this league, including the Brooklyn Nets. I am including them in that. Where they struggle is the back end. And with Tristan Thompson and Robert Williams available, they need to figure out why Daniel Tice isn't working. And it can't be through time. They can't utilize the time to make that work. So I believe Boogie Cousins has to be in the running for the Boston Celtics.
Absolutely. I think another team that we need to look out for with Boogie Cousins is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I mean, he has some familiarity with them. Last season, he was on the team. He won a ring, but I mean, he didn't get to play because he was injured the entire season. So that's unfortunate, but we could finally see what he's able to do. And it's perfect timing because Anthony Davis is hurt. They're about to go into the middle of the season. The All-Star break is here, so he can get acclimated with them. Frank Vogel's the new head coach, so they'd have to get used to that. But I think that it's still basketball, and he still knows how to play the game. He knows these players. He's been around them for a while, so I think he would get used to the system very fast, and I think he'd work out in place of Anthony Davis, helping to fill that void that Anthony Davis has left, and LeBron James is struggling to pick up. So I think DeMarcus Cousins would work out really, really well with the Lakers.
I agree with you. I like the Lakers here. I like what he would bring to the table, and being able to give them even more depth would be absolutely incredible. But the fact remains is that Anthony Davis is out. The only problem I have with him going back to the Lakers essentially is because I mean, most people are already saying that the Lakers have said that they don't want him, that they're not going to make that move. They're sticking with the roster that they have. They're not looking to add any more pieces. So I think while unlikely, I think they should definitely reconsider because Boogie Cousins will help them get over the edge. When they're taking a look at the landscape of the league, it's not the same league that they were facing last year. They're not going to be going up against the Miami Heat in the finals again this year. They're looking at somebody across the way in Brooklyn that has DeAndre Jordan and James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. These guys are going to bang with them all the way around, and there is no reason why signing somebody like DeMarcus Boogie Cousins can't help them win another championship title.
For sure. I think another team that we also want to look out for, the Brooklyn Nets, as you just mentioned. They have DeAndre Jordan. He's been a complete bust this season for them. He is not working out, and they are missing a big five that they can count on. You have your big three that you're working with, but you still need a five that can compete against the other big fives in the East. The only way you're going to make it to the finals is if you can get past the Bucks and the Heat and the Raptors. I think if you're going to get past, and the Sixers, I don't know why I'm forgetting them. If you don't get past these guys, it's because you're missing a five, and DeMarcus Cousins can truly fill that void that DeAndre Jordan is not filling. I think the way he's working out, DeMarcus Cousins is not looking to be the big role player. He's not looking to be the guy on the team. He wants to be a role player. He wants to get a ring, and this is the perfect place for him to go right now if he's ring chasing again.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at the Brooklyn Nets, I just went through their roster, their starting five, but you're right. I mean, the only issue I have with this, again, is Boogie Cousins and James Harden have some beef with each other, and they would have to be able to squander that and be able to move forward. While Boogie Cousins and Kevin Durant have a really good working relationship, it's going to be whether James Harden is willing to work with Boogie Cousins in Brooklyn, because the last thing that Steve Nash and this Brooklyn Nets team wants to do is to mess up the chemistry that they currently have going. If you add Boogie Cousins and it could all fall apart really quickly, that would be an absolute disaster and a squandered opportunity when they have arguably one of the best rosters ever put together.
For sure. Now, I did mention a couple teams that I don't think that he would fit well with, but are teams that are pursuing DeMarcus Cousins. We'll start off with the Golden State Warriors, and right now they have James Wiseman, who is a young prospect, and he looks okay. He looks like he'll be good in the future, but right now he is not working out for them as a starter. Even coming off the bench, he's not working out that well, and I think DeMarcus Cousins would add the size they're looking for to compete against these other teams in the West. And I just don't know if he's going to be the guy, because the Warriors still are very focused on that small ball, and they are not adapting to having a big guy. And I think that's why James Wiseman is struggling to fit in, and he's going through this slow progression. I think DeMarcus Cousins is going to find himself back at square one, where he was with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, just taking a look at the Golden State Warriors, and obviously he has familiarity with the team. Him and Coach Steve Kerr have a long history together. He's worked really well with Steph Curry. I just don't think this is the same Boogie Cousins. I mean, we're talking about another injury a couple more years later. There's no Kevin Durant, no Klay Thompson. I mean, this is a different Warriors roster, and while they're continuing to find ways to win, they had to find a different way to win, and this just isn't the same way that Boogie Cousins is used to. I don't like the fit with the Golden State Warriors at all. I believe that they need to focus on continuing to do what's working for them, and that's not utilizing James Wiseman. And in this instance, would be not utilizing Boogie Cousins. I think it would just be a wasted opportunity for him as well.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, the New York Knicks. They're an interesting team because they're doing well, but when was the last time we saw the Knicks do well? Is this a facade? Is this a mirage? I think it is. And if I'm DeMarcus Cousins, why would I ever entertain an offer from the New York Knicks? Julius Randle's killing it, without a doubt, but he's the only one killing it. Everybody else is doing okay, and this team is going to be in the playoffs, but they're not going to go too far in the playoffs. If he wants to win, this is the worst spot for him to go. If he wants to be part of a rebuild at this stage of his career, be my guest, but you're making a big mistake.
Yeah, no, I don't like this fit either. And, they already have Mitchell Robinson and Nerlens Noel at the center position. I don't understand why they would try to add Boogie Cousins. They're not in win-now situation. Boogie Cousins is. He's at 30 years old. He's not going to be in the league for the next 5 years. That's when the Knicks are looking to finally start competing. I just don't see that long-term deal being out there for him. I don't believe the Knicks should pursue him because I simply don't believe that this is the roster made for him. And before we move, to our outro, I just want to talk about a couple of other teams that you guys should probably just be aware of. Let's look at the Toronto Raptors, who are currently dealing with a lot of issues at the center position. We're looking at the Portland Trail Blazers, who have lost all of their centers due to injury. There is a lot of different issues around the league, a lot of different teams that could utilize Boogie Cousins. And I'll even throw a dark horse out there. The Milwaukee Bucks could definitely utilize his services. A stretch five is something that they miss dearly, and I believe that they could be in the running for him as well. All right, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.